You will hear wars and rumors of wars, but see to it that you are not alarmed. Such things must happen. But the end, look at somebody say the end is not yet. It's still to come. Nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. There will be famines and earthquakes in various places. All these are the beginning of birth pains. In the King James Version it says, of sorrows. Then you will be handed over to be persecuted and put to death. And you will be hated by all nations because of me. And at that time, many will turn away from the faith and will betray and hate each other. And many false prophets will appear and deceive many people. Because of the increase of wickedness, the love of most will grow cold, but the one who stands firm to the end will be saved. The one who stands firm until the end will be saved. Bishop Ty Hall said a lot in that beginning part of his message. And what do you think I got out of that? Somebody, take a guess what you think I might got out of that. Raise your hand. Take a guess. Just do a hypothesis. Try a different perspective on what the sinner is. Anybody want to take a shot?
Satan can bless you or give you good things too to be a distraction.
Satan can bless you or give you good things too to be a distraction. Anybody else? Walking by the flesh versus walking by the spirit. One or two more. You mind come back to you yet?
You gotta be careful when you know what you're doing and not pay attention to the things that you do.
You got to be careful and pay attention to things that you do. And guess what I got all of that? The last two statements that he made. He says, God has special plans for you. And in the end, it will all make sense. Look at somebody and say, God got special plans for you. But it's not until the end that it'll all make sense. You're looking for answers in the beginning, going through it, and God said, I'm not going to really give you the answers until it's over. Ain't that something? Nobody wants the answers when it's over. We want to know in the beginning. That's why they asked Jesus, they said, give us a sign. Why? Because we want to know before it happens. And so I want to mention to you out of this book today. I just got this book. I thought I was going to get it until July. From one of my favorite young preachers, and I took her class for book writing. It is Sophia Ruffin, some call her prophetess. I personally think she's an apostle. But she has, her book came out, Feminine Progression. How I Walked Out of Masculinity by Sophia Ruffin, and the foreword is by Apostle John Eckert. I don't want to look at it, really kind of talk about what she's talking about, but I want to make references to what she's talking about. But I want to talk tonight about hindering cultures and lifestyles. Lifestyles that hinder the culture of the kingdom of God, and cultures. There are actual cultures that hinder the culture of the kingdom of God. That's what I kind of want to talk about. You can get this book and read this book. It's pretty good so far. Started in chapter 2. But she talks here in chapter 2, it's called Dismantling the Culture of Homosexuality. She says, I can recall numerous occasions when kids would walk up to me or ask their parents if I was a girl or a boy. She says, going into the women's restroom was complete torture. as kids stared me down and women looked me up and down, trying to identify my gender. Parents would grab their daughters while kids pointed and expressed, "Mommy, why is a boy in the girls' restroom?" I immediately would attempt to talk because although I was extremely masculine, my voice remained squeaky and girly. Once I opened my mouth, the kids would look confused and stare at me with the weirdest look of disapproval. I didn't pay much mind. I was living my life and really didn't care who questioned my gender. However, after giving my life to God, these moments became uncomfortable. There were times when I liked confusing people about my gender, and there were times when it was quite embarrassing. I found that people would often ask about my gender because they didn't know how to identify me. If you are not familiar with the homosexual community, it is difficult to comprehend their language and the numerous titles to identify their role and function in the lifestyle. I believe many people would ask if I was a girl or a boy to avoid offending me, or because they just didn't know. It was hard to tell my gender if you didn't know me, didn't hear me speak, or if you saw me from the distance. I had a bald fade. I wore my clothes 3 sizes too big, and baggy pants to ensure you could see my Ralph Lauren boxers. My breasts were padded down with a tight sports bra, and I held my crotch as if I really had something to hold. I walked hard. My mannerisms were hard, and I enjoyed the tiny little hairs growing under my chin. It made me feel like I had a beard growing in. Pay attention to this. The level of deception was real. In the homosexual community, I was known as a stud, a masculine lesbian viewed as a male. I took on the role as the man in my relationships. I was dominant, the provider, and very aggressive. Don't get me wrong, there are feminine lesbians. However, in this particular story, I want to focus on the masculine stud. Early on, I learned the role of the stud from my experience playing basketball and being around veteran studs who were able to train me up in the way I was advised to go. I was very comfortable in men's clothing, and I forced myself to look harder than I actually was. I went the extra mile trying to be a man. There was nothing feminine about me. I even convinced myself at one point that I was one of the guys. Spending years in a homosexual lifestyle, I learned to embrace my masculinity and develop the mannerisms of manhood. Being a stud had become my identity. I didn't know myself outside of who I had worked hard to become. I was in the prime of my sexuality and was developing new levels of darkness that would usher me deeper into darkness. Homosexuals take pride in the slogan gay pride because that's exactly what it is. Happy and proud to be gay. It's like earning stripes for being dark. The darker you're into it, the greater you are respected by your peers. Conversion power was like a badge of honor, and along the journey, I had become gay and proud. I was an advocate of my sexuality and was unashamed. I was always ready to contend with anyone who brought a judgment against the identity I've grown to embrace. My behavior as a stud was deeper than how I dressed. There was something internal that triggered external manifestations. Write that down. If you want to write something down, write that down. I'm going to focus on that. There was something internal that triggered external manifestation. Also write down internal triggers external. It ain't nothing external that's going on in your life that's not triggered by internal. They used to sing the song, old school Christians would say, something on the inside, working on the outside, brought about change in my life. And so, she said, I had a dose of demonic adrenaline that gave me momentum on how to act and conduct myself. I groomed and prepared myself before going out in public. I wouldn't be caught in public without a sports bra, my baggy pants, or shorts, or jeans. It says, I needed to be in stud role at all times. The biggest struggle was trying to adjust my vocal cords to sound masculine. But the harder I tried, the squeaker my voice would become. I would often get frustrated at the uniqueness of my voice tone. I had some weird scratchy pitch, so I had to make up for it in my lifestyle and behavior. I was aggressive, and my body language had a special posture when sitting, standing, or relaxing. I had a posture when I was kicking it with my guys or when I was conversing with women. The only reason I smoked weed was because it added to my swag and intoxicated me from the reality that I was trying hard to become someone I wasn't. I was in performance role at all times, and I had to put on the act of being a man. The guy who was in Brokeback Mountain, and then he played the Joker on Batman, he had so many internal problems, but I was reading an article when his close friend said what led him to commit suicide was the negative roles that he played. He had studied so much and got so involved into the character that he could hardly dissociate himself with the character that he had studied to become. I had ambitions at one time to really pursue, because during high school, I was in like 3 of the school plays in the last 2 years, my junior and sophomore, my junior and senior, I had the lead role in the plays. And, but I didn't take it too serious because I was always a joker. I was Tasmanian. I was always joking, making fun of something. But I often thank God that I didn't pursue any of those careers because you see the glory on the outside, but you don't know what it takes to become that. You don't know what it takes to become or to live, to become an R&B star and to live in that world, in the environment of the darkness in that world. What I'm talking about tonight, the culture and the lifestyles that's involved with the things that you want to get into. You never understand it. But I tell you one thing, I thank God for the power of the light of the word. Because that kind of light can penetrate the darkest of dark. There is no darkness that can overwhelm the light of God. Do you hear me? And so, because all she really talked about was her testimony coming out of darkness into the light. And so she says, she has to be in performance role at all times. I had to put on the act of being a man. So she understood that she wasn't that, but it was the act. It was the act that she had to always, can you imagine having to always be in character of somebody who you're not? Listen to this. When people would question my gender, it confirmed I was on track and appeared manly enough to confuse others. I developed the culture of my sexuality. Just like an American is proud to be an American, as a homosexual, I was proud to be homosexual. Here's the reason why one must have wisdom when ministering to a homosexual. Homosexuality is rooted in pride and deception, and a wrong move could hinder the ministry encounter. Listen, if you don't know what to say to people that are experiencing that, shut up. I get so sick sick and tired of religious people who ain't really living nothing themselves, trying to get other people free from stuff that they have a culture there. Do you understand what a culture is? I got a ride, an Uber ride, a couple weeks ago to New York. It was about 12:30, and I talk about the New York run so much, I usually get 1 or 2 a week. And so I was really tired, man. And but I had been talking about it so much. Do you know this 12:30 ride was a New York ride? When I hit this thing, it said 2 hours and 15 minutes. And I said, oh my God. I said, I ain't turning it down because I'm too greedy. Plus, he's supposed to be ready to drive wherever. And so he gets in, speaks about 5 words of English. So I was like, hey man, where you coming in from? The airport is, I was like, oh Lord. Traveling 2.5 hours and somebody can't even talk English. Half the journey you talk through. So man, we was battling and I was like, oh, so we started driving. I drove for an hour, then I started getting sleep. I'm trying to communicate with him back and forth. So I got a list of songs of Jackson 5. So I got my music right now. I think I got Shaka Khan, I got some Prince. And those watching by Periscope or Facebook, don't judge me. If you don't want to listen to it, you ain't strong enough to listen. Don't you listen to it. But these old school music keep me awake.
That's right.
And I got some Casey and the Sunshine Band, and you know, I got some Earth, Wind, and Fire, because everybody on Earth, Wind, and Fire. I picked up some white people from this country club in Delaware. It was late at night, and I had the Earth, Wind, and Fire, and the guy came over and said, "Oh man, yeah." I was like, well, he said, that was the last song playing. I didn't get a chance to dance. Hey, baby. I was like, music is universal.
Yes, yes.
And so we was driving, and the cultural barrier was hard to break through. So I started getting tired around halfway the journey. Well, I put Michael Jackson on before that. And when I put Michael Jackson on, he said, "That's the king of pop." That's the king of pop. He like popped up, came alive. That's Michael Jackson. And I had ABC on. Like he must have really knew who Michael Jackson was. You know? And so that created conversation. And so I said, listen, I said, hey man, rest stop. I gotta pull over to the rest stop, and you know, I gotta get me some coffee or something. So he said, yo, rest stop. He said, on the plane, $10 on the plane. Need smoke. I said, oh, okay. So it was cool. He wanted to pull over because he'd been 10 hours flying and he needed a cigarette. So we pulled over. We got, now it's gonna take me about 5 minutes to get out of the car with this right knee. So I'm preparing to get out the car, moving up like that, getting my knee together, I'm stiff. I'm using my machine. He said, no, Fred, no, don't get out. I get you. I guess that they get what I need. And so I said, here go money. He's like, no money. I get it. I was like, okay. I said, well, I don't really drink all coffee. I need 5-hour energy. He's like, hours? So I showed him on a picture. I showed him a picture of 5-hour energy, and I showed him a picture of some water, and I showed him a picture of the juice I wanted. He's like, oh, I get it. So I took the picture. He took his phone and snapped the picture. He went in there, got it. We stayed there for maybe like 15, 20 minutes. He smoked his couple cigarettes, because he was smoking in my car. He smoked it, and we got back in. Now everything is set, everything's cool. We kind of conversate more. I put back on Michael Jackson. We play ABC, I Want You Back, Mama's Pearl, Mama, I Think I Found That Girl. What else we play? Sugar Daddy. And when I play Sugar Daddy, he's like, I said, this dude, when I played Dance Machine, he was like this. I said, boy, he said, King of Pop. I blast the music. Now, 2 things I need for a long journey. I need the right music, I need to blast it, and I need to put the windows down.
That's right.
And so he was there with all three. Now 55 around energy, I'm like this. Like we had all the way in New York City, we went into the city park. And I dropped him off at a hotel, and I know I'm gonna make it back home, because now I can do whatever I want in the car, because I can get back. When I got out the car, he said, "Thank you, my friend. Thank you, my friend. Number? I act like I know what he's talking about, because I don't know him. I ain't giving you my phone number. I don't know, this might seem bad, but I don't know if he's a terrorist. I don't know what he is. He put my number on the FBI list. But the thing that kept us kind of not having a full, fluent conversation was our culture. Didn't mean he was bad, just didn't know his culture. And so when we are approaching people in different lifestyles, you got to remember all souls belong to God.
That's right.
Don't you be dissing people because their culture been depicted as despicable. Nah, Negro, you despicable at times. I don't know why Christians try to act like they don't do nothing wrong. We always do that, and it's ridiculous. No. Look at him and say, everybody made mistakes. So let me tell you who's going to be judged with the greater judgment. The one that points the finger at somebody else and don't realize their own sin. And so I'm glad she said this in here. She says, when people would question my gender, it confirmed I was on track and appeared manly enough to confuse others. I developed the culture of my sexuality. Just like an American is proud to be an American, homosexual, I was proud to be homosexual. But here's a reason why one must have wisdom when ministering to a homosexuality or anybody of a different lifestyle and culture. Homosexuality is rooted in pride and deception, and a wrong move can hinder the ministry encounter. Everybody ought to repent in this room. How many people have you murdered with your ignorance? How many people have you murdered with your attitude? That said, I'll never try Christianity because of you. I was talking with this guy in the Uber out the other day, and he said, I don't know, I usually don't talk about it, but some kind of way, I slipped out, I told him I had a church. He said, oh yeah. And he was like, my sister was going to church, but, and she's saved and everything, but she had a bad encounter in church. Now she won't go to church anymore because the people confronted her about some stuff, and now she won't go no more because they were so blatantly wrong. I thought they were so blatantly right. We can mess up somebody's life. It's better to shut up than to say anything. And so she says, you couldn't just walk up to me and say God wants to deliver you from your struggle. I didn't see my lifestyle as a struggle because it was my culture. My identity was bound to the lifestyle I had grown accustomed to living. I didn't see myself as being in any struggles. Many would say I was going to hell and would focus on the consequences I would receive if I didn't change my life. She said, that charge was not persuasive because hell wasn't reality for me. See, all the religious stuff we learn, it's some people that ain't learned that. And so that reality, we talk about going to hell, and that don't faze them because they don't really know that. That phases church people, and then church people still don't do right. She says, when I went to the altar, it was because I was tired of being gay. No, she said it wasn't. When I went to the altar, it wasn't because I was tired of being gay. She said, I didn't even know what deliverance was. So that wasn't the case. And sometimes we say, you should get deliverance. People don't know what that is. The average church person don't know what deliverance is. Stop it. She says, this is what happened. I was apprehended by a power that was bigger than Sophia.
Yeah.
I didn't count the cost of what would be next concerning my life. I was just obeying the voice that beckoned me to come. When God invited me to the altar, he knew exactly what he was doing even when I didn't. I knew I would have to eventually give up my same-sex desire, but I wasn't giving up the stud life. Crazy, huh? I was willing to give up same-sex attraction if he took away the desire, but I was holding on to my appearance and identity. I can even recall saying to God, you can deliver me, but don't you dare touch my identity. My personality was wrapped in my identity, and I didn't know who I was outside of being a stud. I wanted to give God my internal being, but externally I wanted that part of me to remain unbothered. I held on to my identity with clenched fists, refusing to let go. God is so awesome. He knows exactly what he's doing. I often laugh because you won't always see the big picture, but God knows the end before the beginning. I want to stop right there tonight. I don't want to really approach the homosexuality piece. I don't really want to deal with that. I want to deal with the mask that we wear as Christians. I want to deal with the lifestyle that we try so hard to live. But the dark side that's still in us. Delivered from the desire of homosexuality, but still wanting to keep the appearance. Many of us are just the opposite. We are delivered in appearance. We are so vehemently caught up in looking a certain way in front of people. But the desires for pride, what did she say here? The desire for pride and deception live within us, hindering our culture and our Christian lifestyle. Now understanding, that's why what I want to create in this church, I'm getting ready to make some changes, man. Some major changes. I'm going to position some people in some major positions. I just found out today that the CBS Morning News did change staff. I don't like it. Charlie Rose came off of there because of his messing with women. Well, I can understand that. But now John and Nora are gone. Nora is heading up CBS nighttime. And I think the other guy, John, is doing some kind of, heading up some kind of investigative or something like that. I don't like it. Yeah, something like that. 60 minutes, yeah, 60 minutes. Like, when Charlie Rose did the 60 minutes, I think he's going to be doing 60 minutes. I know they came with I know they ain't sad, because they came with some probably some phenomenal bonuses and extra pay. And E.A.L's still on there, but with two other cats. I don't want to see them. But changes are necessary. And guess what they did? They did the internal changes. Many of us won't do the internal changes, but we'll stay the same way with the outside changes and really not have nothing. But it's lifestyles and cultures. Salvation is not something that you do. Salvation is a culture that you come into. It's a whole nother lifestyle. But in order to be in that lifestyle, you got to give up your lifestyle. You cannot be in both lifestyles. You're fooling yourself. I like the part when she said, let's put my paper away. I like the part when she said, she says, I had a posture when I was kicking with the guys or when I was conversing with the women. The only reason I smoked weed was because it added to my swag and intoxicated me from the reality that I was trying hard to become someone I wasn't. That's why I can kind of agree with people, but they don't really know what they're talking about when they say I don't like titles in church. But it's not really a title, it's an anointing. It's the oil that God has smeared on you to perform a particular task spiritually. But because the church is so God-awful carnal, we really can't really identify with the Spirit. And so we go on Christians, but carnal, which means ineffective, not being able, like she said in this book, not being able to realize who the real us are, and big on becoming something that we're not. They had a show back in the day called To Tell the Truth. Was that the name of the show?
You wasn't around to tell.
No, I was around when it was a show. What you talking about? I remember that show. It's a game show. I remember that. It was To Tell the Truth, but then another one was What's My Line? But one of them was Will the Real, what you call them, Please Stand Up. Just to tell the truth. No, hey, don't tell me how old are you? I'm 57, it's only 5 years difference.
That's 5 years, 5 years.
So when you was 18, I was 13. I saw it. When I was 8, you was 12. No, when you was 13, I was 8. I saw it. I can remember shows when I was 6 years old. Ultraman, you remember Ultraman? See, you don't remember Ultraman. Hayata became Ultraman. You don't even remember that. I ain't saying nothing bad about you. I don't remember. I remember that. Suki Sales was the host. Come on, man, don't tell me. I was getting show addict. Suki Sales. There it is. That ain't Suki Sales, but he was one of the hosts on that earlier. And so, yeah, what was I saying? Oh, they would give hints to who people were, but the whole idea was to trick the contestant to not know who the person really was. And then after they make their real person, but at the end they would say, will a real so-and-so please stand up? And then other people would act like they were standing up, then the real person would stand up. Will a real Christian stand up? Will a real person? Will you really admit to what you're struggling with? Will you really get delivered from the things that's holding you back? Yeah. Will you stop faking and fronting? Huh? Being somebody that you're not. And guess what? Before you point the finger at somebody else, remember, we must all appear before the judgment seat of Christ to give an account for the works done in our body. If you're looking at people to point the finger, the devil is the accuser of the brother. Why are we looking at the people to point them and put them down? Why don't we try to lift them up? God spoke to me and said, ask the people, can you bear anything? He said, I bore your stinking ways. I dealt with you while you were yet sinners. I died. He said, I went to the cross by myself. But that didn't negate the love I had for you. Because if you ever figured out what my line was, y'all understand that was a game show too. What's my line? You'll understand that this culture and this lifestyle that I'm trying to draw you to is drenched and entrenched with love. And this was another thing God spoke to me, said, son, if you can ever get the praise in the worship ignited, it will produce the atmosphere where sinners will run to this altar, where I can, what she said in this book, she said, I didn't see myself. They come to the victim, somebody prophesy. You got struggles and you need to be delivered. Man, shut up and sit down. She said this. You could just walk up to me and say, God wants to deliver you from your struggle. I didn't see my lifestyle as a struggle. What you gonna talk to people about being delivered from struggle? They gang banging. They don't see their life as no struggle. That's what they do. She said this, because this was my culture. My identity was bound to the lifestyle I've grown accustomed to living. I didn't see myself as being in any struggles. Many would say I was going to hell and would focus on the consequences I would receive if I didn't change my life. That charge was not persuasive because hell was a reality to me. I watched this documentary. This boy was talking about people was telling he was a lifestyle drug dealer when he was young. He started selling drugs at 11. He became one of the biggest drug dealers in New York. By the time he was 18, he sold drugs from 11. He didn't get caught till he was 31. He said going to jail wasn't a reality to him. He said every time he got caught, he was able to get out of it. He said, so he said, I literally didn't think about jail. He said, till I wound up in there. He said, oh my God, they gave me 30 to life. He said, but when I got to jail, they gave me 30 to life. He said, for the first 5 years, I was angry. I spent most of my jail time in the hole. He said, but one time I got out of the hole, I was on the block, and I ran into this man who didn't get in trouble with nobody. He said he wasn't a Muslim, he wasn't in a gang. And he said to be at Rikers Island and be not in the gang is impossible. He said this guy was low-key, he had himself to himself. And he said when I walked in his presence, it was just a difference about him. And he said the power of God arrested him. And after talking with this guy for 3 days, he said he found himself on his knees, crying out, what must I do to be saved? He said the man never even talked or introduced salvation to him. He said the man just constantly talked about God. Talked about how God set him free, and the man had life. And even though he was in prison, how free he was. And for some reason, the prisoners, nobody messed with him. And he said the power of God hit his life. And he said, I never even understood what saving was about. He said, but I fell on my knees to him and said, what do I need to do to give my life to Jesus and be saved? 4 years later, they found that the cop that convicted him was dirty. They overturned 37 convictions. His was one of them. And he said, even though he was guilty, he said the state awarded him over $100,000 because of what they stole from him. He said they stole way more money from him than that. But he said he got his conviction overturned. He got out of prison with $100,000. Now he's overseas doing foreign missions and helping kids that are less fortunate. He gave away all his money. And he's living over there to help people in third world countries and people that, are less than. But what hit him, the point was, what hit him was the power of God. Are you listening to me today? And God began to challenge him. He said, is the culture of the ministry a culture where people are trying to win people to God? Or people are leading them to me, and I'll bring them the rest of the way? Is it that we trying to get people saved, or are we creating an atmosphere, a culture of love and power and worship. And then God spoke this to me, he said, I'm not going to let you get too big yet, because I want to see this manifested. I want all eyes on me. And then he did another miracle. I can't tell you about this till it actually happens. This miracle is unbelievable. I can't believe it till it's happened. It's in the workings. It ain't manifest totally yet. But let me tell you something. That's what brought me to this conclusion with Ty Hall. God has special plans for you. How many know God got special plans for you? You better know it. You better know it. Listen, I don't care about nothing and nobody, because God got his hand on me. And he got special plans. And he says, in the end, it will all make sense. God said, I ain't talking about when you die either. He says, I'm fit to bring final solutions to stubborn problems. And then you're going to look back and see that I already had your back through wherever you go through. In the end, he said, in the end, it'll all make sense. He loved that girl, he said. Ain't it somehow God calls a sinner to see you and identify you and leave you alone? Because they see the hand of God on you when you don't even see it. We're dealing with, let me tell you what we're dealing with when we talk about spiritual warfare. We're dealing with the lifestyle and the culture of demons versus the lifestyle and the culture of Christ. And what the devil will do, he'll get into the church and twist things and make us think that good is evil and evil is good. I talked about on Periscope, the spirit of the consecrated. And what we wrestle against in Ephesians is the 6th chapter. We wrestle against principalities, powers, rulers of darkness. That word rulers is consecrated, meaning these that have a direct target with neighborhoods, families, and individuals. And you got to understand what's going on in the spirit realm. You got to be one that can, let me tell you something, more than fighting, you got to learn how to endure. Some people don't know how to endure. You got to learn how to endure, man. I said you got to learn how to endure. The race ain't given to the swift, nor is it to the strong. He that endureth to the end, the same shall be saved. And I'm not talking about the end of your life. I'm talking about the end of what you're going through, the end of your problem, the end of your situation. We want to give up all the time. We want to ride pretty. We want to ride this whole salvation life pretty. And nothing happened. We look at the mega churches on TV and get the false impression that they don't go through nothing. To whom much is given, much is required. I'm sure the Fuhrer, is his name Fuhrer? He go through. Are you kidding me? Joel Osteen, as nice as he is, it's the nasty things he got to deal with behind the scenes. You think you're going to have 30,000 members and not deal with nothing? 30,000 of you? Please. Changes every day. Confusion every day. John Harris said he hates confronting people, didn't he? He hated that part. He tried to stay away from that. And he got, how many members he got? Like over, what, 20,000, something like that? Can you imagine that? But I'm telling you, man, it's lifestyle and culture. Schizophrenia is, this is what schizophrenia is. Schizophrenia is this. She said, I smoked weed because it added to my swag and intoxicated me from the reality that I was trying hard to be someone I wasn't. I was in performance role at all times. I had to put on the act of being a man. I'm just determined, man, I'm going to be me. I'm gonna be myself. I ain't wearing no white. I ain't wearing no robe. I ain't putting on no collar. I ain't wearing no beanie on my head or no. I'm not wearing that stuff. I'm not having a staff like little Bo Peep. You know. Let me tell you where the real holiness comes from. Your heart. Your real character comes from inside. And if you take as much time dressing that up as we try to dress up the outside, would be great. But the culture of the kingdom of God is where it's at. Living in the culture. Let me tell you one thing that the culture of the kingdom of God produces. Extreme amounts of peace. Listen, some people want peace as they get young, but I tell you one thing you're going to be craving for as you get old. Peace. You want life free of drama. Unfortunately, sometimes you might not never get life free of drama, but you can have peace in the midst of the storm. Jesus on the boat's raging, what's he doing? Anything that robs you of your sleep is demonic. Anything that robs you of your sanity is demonic. Anything that troubles you all the time is demonic. And guess what? It ain't what's coming at you. It's because of what you're not able to manifest in your own mind. You're not able to look at the situation and see that God already fixed it. And so you trip because this thing that just happened today, it just happened today. I'm dumbfounded. I can't believe it. Like, it's never over till it's over. Listen to me prophetically. Any hidden dream, any failed attempt at what you wanted, it's just failed and hidden, but it don't mean that it's over. God can resurrect it. Do you hear me? That's what I'm talking about. We spiritual, but many times we live in carnal. We live by what we see. You cannot trust what you see. Faith says we don't live by things that appear. The world was made by things that did not appear. God called it into existence. Where did he call it from? Out of nothing. And made it something. This is what I want you to do for next week. I want you to dissect and look up everything you can find about the word be, B-E. That's what I want you to do for next week. I want you to come in here loaded. If you got a paper, I'm going to give everybody that study, I ain't going to give you like 15, 20 minutes. I'm going to give you time to express what you learned about B. B-E. B-E is one of the most powerful words in the Bible. Did you know you are a B-E? Did you know that? No, you're greater than a B-E. You're a B-E that never stops. You're a B-E-ing. Y'all can't hear me. That means you're a bee that's existing. And you'll never stop. How did God create the world? What did he say? That there be a what? You know what you are? You are a being. We have the power. You got the autograph. You have the power to speak be out of your mouth. And it comes to existence. But there's a lot of factors behind that. God can do it because he was perfectly righteous and holy. Let me tell you what hinders most of us. Our culture and our lifestyle. It don't match up to the power that you try to exude out of your mouth. You know, you can cast out demons just like this. Come out in Jesus' name. You ain't got to be like this. I used to do that when I didn't know about deliverance, but I used to do that when I was preaching, when I was young about preaching. I'd be like, yeah, like Elder Blaine, Mom, you know, she back there in the church. I'd be like, brother, God showed me that in 3 days the blessing's going to come. And God said, right now, God, right now in the name of Jesus. Man, it was real though. People was being blessed. I'm crying on chairs, anointing people with oil. But guess what? You know, it was cool, and a lot of stuff plays to our emotions, but if emotions gonna get you free, they get free. But you can speak like this. Come out. In Jesus' name. You gotta understand. You gotta understand who you're talking to. You gotta understand what you're coming up against, and you got to understand that the devil knows your lifestyle. Let me tell you something. After you get saved, you may not live right. You may have battles with your salvation in your life. I mean, you may have battles with your salvation. You may have battles with your lifestyle, but personally, you still saved. But what good is it to be saved and not enjoy the benefits of what it's about? Not to do the work. I ain't got no heaven or hell to put nobody in. But I'll tell you one thing, a lifestyle lived for God can benefit you more to live for Him and do His will than to do your own thing. To find out the lifestyle. You hear us talking a lot about culture, the kingdom culture. And the kingdom of God is not meat or drink, but it's what? Joy, peace, and what's right in the Holy Ghost. And so if you ain't got peace, if you ain't got no joy, and if you ain't doing right, you better check your lifestyle. Or bring your mind into oneness with the Spirit of God and live what you have professed to be. I don't know, but it just seems like it's a lot of faith. It could be a lot of faith in the kingdom or in the church. Because people in the church don't want to really realize who they are. And if you got a problem, one of the number one reasons why a lot of sicknesses, heart attacks, and all this stuff kill black men is because they won't go get examined. They won't. One guy said, I don't care when I die, I ain't never going to do doctors. He said, I ain't never get no prostate exam. Well, that ain't going to be me. The Bible says, let a man examine himself first. Examine yourself. Let's see where we are. We don't want to be living a lie. It don't matter what people think about you. It don't matter what people say about you. It matters if you know who you really are. And you know, they talked about Jesus. Spit on him, beat him, and crucified him. And you get mad at people because they don't agree with you. People don't know who you are. Or people don't recognize who you are. Nobody got to recognize who I am. This one guy in the neighborhood said, you're Bunzy. Your mama called you Bunzy. Your papa called you Bunzy. I know you grew up as Bunzy. I'm not saying no pastor. I said, cool, but that's me. That's my name, Bunzy. Now guess what you call me every time you see me? Apostle. I said, man, you call me Bunzy sometimes? Nah, brother, I can't call you that. I said, remember when? He said, man, why you going back to that old stuff, man? That's old stuff. The Lord has saved him and delivered him. Job said, I don't care what you say, all my appointed days, I'm going to wait on the Lord. I'm going to trust in God. Listen. Look at that word for next week, the word being. B-E-I-N-G. First and foremost, you are a what? Being. What kind of being? Spirit being. You are a spirit that has a soul, that possesses a soul, and live in a body. The most insignificant part about you is your body. Your body will definitely go back to the dust from whence it was created, because flesh and blood cannot enter the kingdom of God. I've been studying Dr. Seeley. Dr. Seeley, I'm trying to break into it, man. You know, whenever you try to go on a fast, the devil will fight you like crazy. But Dr. Seeley was sick, and the Mexican dude told, Mexican Christian dude told me to fast for 90 days. And Dr. Seeley's talking about what really kills us. He talks about the mucus in your body, but he says, why are we eating food that's not for us? He said, we're eating food with blood in it. He said, that's the cause of many of our diseases. He broke it down with this. He said, cauliflower ain't a vegetable. He said, they manufactured that. He talked about a lot. That's one reason why they came at it. When you start spewing up, why we think, this is why we think we gonna know truth, we're going to start to talk about truth, especially that people not really accustomed to in the church world where they didn't hear, and we ain't going to get all hell coming after us. If you know, listen, one of the biggest, crookedest industries in the world is prescription medication. And that is a book called, it's a book that I read. I forgot the name of the book. But this lady says, the front door to hell is the prison system. And she said the back door to hell is the hospitals and the medical profession. She said the medical profession had killed more people with prescription drugs. She was like, what's the name of that book? I can't think of the name of that book. But let me tell you something, man. If you're gonna come up against the enemy, you best believe he's gonna come up against you. If the devil ain't coming up against you, you check what you're doing. My uncle, they said my uncle used to cast out devils. I said, I want you to come and do a deliverance training for me at the church. No, I don't do that no more. What do you mean? Nah, Bunzy, I used to do that. The devil came at me so hard, I leave that alone. When you start doing that, he gonna come at you. I was like, so you ain't gonna do it no more? No, I'm just gonna, I got my nice little 15 people, and I'm just gonna teach them and train them. And I said, teach them and train them what? Don't worry about it. Some people don't, but do you honestly think Satan ain't gonna mess with you? He's gonna always mess with you. And to whom much is given, he's gonna mess with you even more. And so you just gotta hold your ground, because the end will surely come. Keep your focus on God. Keep your eyes towards the hill. And be steady and strong and steadfast and firm. Read your word and develop a relationship with God. And then you might be all right. Because the scripture is even the very elect of God, if it was possible, he would deceive them. So we got to be strong. And remember, God has special plans for you, and in the end, it will all make sense. Amen? Amen. Let's do a little hand clap praise tonight. Thank God. Amen. We need about 3 times more people here next week. I'm counting on you to make it happen.